Roy Noble it is here on BBC Radio Wales on a Sunday morning, and very welcome you are, as I said a little earlier. And something to raise the spirits now on this Sunday morning and underline the word hope. When Alexander Gunningham from Swansea was diagnosed with cancer in 2002, his future looked decidedly uncertain. However, after intensive treatment, he defied the odds. It was during his long illness that Alexander witnessed the courage of young cancer patients at his local hospital. So much so, in fact, he was inspired to write a book entitled Harry's Stories, The Road to Recovery. And Alexander is in our Swansea studio. Alexander, you're very welcome. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
First of all, congratulations on the book.
Thank you.
Well, it's bright and colourful, illustrated from the front cover, and I must say it looks like a book any child would want to pick up and read. But you had a particular audience in mind, didn't you?
Well, yes, I did, because when I was diagnosed with having chronic myeloid leukemia back in 2002, I noticed that a lot of the children at the local hospital couldn't cope. They were scared, and they needed some kind of device to guide them through that.
And the book is subtitled Stories to Help Make Children Feel Better.
That's right, yes.
Yeah. Now, 7 stories in the book altogether, and written for easy reading and understanding, isn't it?
Yes, very much so. Yes, the child of average intelligence from the age of 4 upwards should be able to understand it.
Yes. Well, having done a little with Latch, leukemia and cancer in children, the charity, when their parents have to stay with them in hospital for long periods of time, and also seeing children in the children's hospital, you well understand the patients that actually you're aiming for.
Right.
It's very inspiring indeed. We'll come back to your own story in a moment, but seeing children face serious illness clearly has made an impact on you. At what point then did you come up with the idea of a storybook for sick children?
Well, I thought that there was a need for some kind of book, and I didn't know what it was. So one night I just put the question out to the universe as to guidance as to what shape and form the book would take. And I did that, and I went to bed and slept. And the next morning I woke up with the first story fully formed in my head. So I got up and feverishly wrote it down in the old-fashioned manner with pen and paper, because I didn't want to waste time and lose anything by waiting for the computer to boot up, which can be time-consuming.
That's an interesting statement that you said there. Threw the idea out to the universe.
Yes.
What does that mean? Did you mean you throw it out as an idea, you go to sleep, and somehow the cement that forms that idea is there for you in the morning?
Yes, the solution was there for me.
Yes. You're a believer in that, are you?
Well, I think that experience shows that it's possible.
Yes. Now, when you're ill, of course, there's no substitute for medical care, but the patient also needs to have the will to survive. And with children, it's very difficult to instill that will, because they're small, they're immature, and they're young, aren't they?
Exactly.
And you fused your own experiences into this story.
I did indeed, yes. It's a difficult journey. That's the way it's often the euphemism is phrased with cancer. It's a journey.
Yes.
And there are several ways that the journey can turn out, and it can be cyclical and repeat itself. You can get false starts and false hopes and go back again to the beginning. But yes, it is the road to recovery.
Yes.
And
what message do you want to convey to the young readers? And it's one of hope, isn't it, I suppose?
It is hope, and it's being positive, adopting a positive consciousness. As you say, the medical help is quintessential to a patient's recovery, but they need to think positively and be positive, and be well. Adopt a sense of wellness in everything they do, from the way that they breathe to everything they eat and drink as well.
Yeah. I was looking at some of your philosophies here. For instance, when I go out and speak now to audiences and so on, I tend to be fairly light-hearted. But there's usually, depending on the audience, of course, and depending on the subject, I hope there is a message there. And I find that 99.9% of people accept a message in humour. And I find it's more effective to drive home the point in humour than it is with a mallet. And you found the same philosophy in this kind of way, with humour, but with lightheartedness, and taking them out into the story.
Exactly, because, so if you just deliver a very, as you know yourself as a public speaker, if it's just a dry lecture, then no one wants to know. But if you can enlighten it with humour,
Yes.
and warmth, and take people on a journey, or several journeys in this case, because it's 7 stories, and just help them escape, perhaps, as well. Escapism is very important for everybody.
Yes, and Harry helps with the escapism. The story is, the flavour of the stories. Can you tell us a little bit about the character tonight?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, Harry is a teddy bear, and he lives with Johnny, who's a little boy who has an unspecified illness, because I didn't want it to be alienate anybody with any particular type of illness. And when Johnny's asleep at night, Harry, his teddy bear, takes him off to a magical landscape called Happy Valley, where he meets other bears, other teddy bears, and nature spirits, gnomes and fairies. And they teach Johnny to accept his illness and accept the fact that it's only temporary and that he will get better. And they steer him towards the road to recovery, which eventually he reaches, and he gets to the end of the road to recovery, and he's then well again. Yes. And so that's your happy ending.
Yes. 7 stories, and you're going to read an extract now of one of them.
Yes, I will. Just to set the scene briefly, so that in isolation it might sound strange, but Johnny's being taken to Happy Valley by Harry, his teddy bear, and he's been to the Knowing Wood, which is a place where the trees teach you subliminally what you need to know. And so he's there in the Knowing Wood. So he decided to ask the trees of the Knowing Wood what to do. He knew the answer right away. Johnny knew that he had to fly up the last part of the hill. So he did. He stretched his arms out wide like a bird and floated high above the ground. He flew to the top of the hill and gently landed beneath a vast old hazel tree. Johnny felt great. All his tiredness had gone, and he found the flying very easy and very enjoyable. The weather had changed too. It was now very sunny, and the rain and winds had stopped.
Oh. You're a professional writer, aren't you?
That's right, yes. I've been for over 30 years now, yeah.
Yeah, so you're a natural storyteller, really. But what kind of writing have you done before? Has it been this kind?
This is my first children's book. I've written stuff for radio and television. I've written plays and gags for different shows, like the news headlines, if you remember that on BBC Radio 2. And I worked for many years as a copywriter in advertising and as a journalist as well. So I've always been a jobbing writer.
Yes. What other adventures do they go on then in the book itself?
Well, Johnny goes through several transformations. He is turned into variously a bird and a fish, and so he has different experiences of, and that's a way of helping him escape from the confines of his normal body and his normal train of thought. Yes,
and going through many sort of aspects and concepts and situations. What about yourself and your illness?
Well, they did say that I needed to have a bone marrow transplant in 2002, and I was given a time scale that they say if you don't have one, you probably only got 6 months to live. And I said, no, that's not true. I've got more than that. Yes. And but this new drug came out called Glivec, and it's what it does is it keeps the condition stable, and it reduced it from 100% on diagnosis. It had to be below 55% for me to have a bone marrow transplant on a previous drug called interferon, and that didn't work. And the new drug has kept my condition stable, and they hope it's going to keep me that way for the remainder of my days.
Yeah, well, Harry's Stories, The Road to Recovery, Stories to Help Make Children Feel Better by Alexander Gunningham. Any other things or projects of this kind, or possibly others in the pipeline?
Yes, there's another Happy Valley novel, which is called A Gnome Called Sponge, and the central character there is, as the title suggests, a gnome called Sponge, and he's a very lazy and dishonest gnome, and so he gets thrown out of Happy Valley and cast into exile, and so he then has a series of adventures, which are all trials and tribulations for him, and eventually, after all these adventures that he has, he returns to Happy Valley as a hero, and it's a moral allegory, if you like.
And the age group is primary school children.
That particular book will be 7 to 10 years old.
There we are.
But Harry's Stories, I say, is aimed at children between the ages of 4 years old to 103 years young.
Because these books would fit in well as an audiobook as well, wouldn't
they? They will, yes. There are plans afoot to do that, and I'm hoping to be able to do that later this year. and also to make an animated film at some point. But you can imagine the financial constraints there are much greater. So,
well, in 2016, let me wish you good luck on two fronts, really. Good health for yourself personally, and good luck with these ventures that help children in particular. Many thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much indeed.
Bye-bye now.
Bye.
There we are. Alexander Gunningham's book, Harry's Stories and the Road to Recovery, is available in print and online, and you can order it in any good bookshop or go to the Auric Vision, or Auric Fusion, I should say. That's AURICFUSION, auricfusion.com to find out more. And of course, you can always contact me, roy.noble@bbc.co.uk for information, or again the telephone number 03 700 100 110. AURICFUSION, auricfusion.com to find out more. And of course, you can always contact me, roy.noble@bbc.co.uk for information, or again the telephone number 03 700 100 110.